I'm so excited. So this is the first ever episode of Inside the Investigation, where we really want to peel back the curtain, talk to the people who are involved in investigating the crimes in Hampton Roads, get to know them, talk about some of the bigger cases that have affected the community. And you are lucky number one. So thank you so much for joining us. Go ahead and introduce yourself. Talk a little bit about who you are.
So I'm Anton Bell, and I am the current Commonwealth attorney for the city of Hampton. I am a husband to Don Bell, a father to a rambunctious 17-year-old Anton Jr. I'm a minister at Calvary Revival Church, but I'm just your down-home guy who just was blessed enough to escape the hood and be able to make a difference in the lives of others.
Where'd you grow up?
Norfolk.
Okay.
Yeah, I grew up in Norbury Gardens in Norfolk off of Sewers Point Road, and I am a Norfolk native to my heart. Norfolk State, Norfolk Catholic.
Okay.
Yeah, I'm all Norfolk.
I didn't know that about you, actually.
Yeah.
I don't know why, you've been in Hampton so long. I start to just associate you in Hampton.
Yeah.
But you even still go to church in Norfolk, you said.
I do. I've been there for 30 years. Actually, this year is 30 years I've been a member of Calvary Revival Church in Norfolk.
Nice.
Yeah.
And talk about what it is you do in your role, because sometimes people don't really connect. Who are you in a courtroom?
Okay, so the ethics code calls a prosecutor the minister of justice. So it is our goal to execute justice and hold people accountable for bad behavior. A lot of times people have the misperception of a prosecutor is just trying to get a conviction. That is not our job. Our job is just to make sure that whatever the crime may be, there is a fitting, accountable action or response for that particular behavior. Now, that accountability can be probation, it can be a withhold finding, it can absolutely be a conviction, it can be incarceration, it can be, if Virginia had the death penalty, it could be death. So it has various levels. However, the accountability should always meet the crime and the individual that is charged.
Let's talk about a day in the life. You wake up. What time are you waking up? What time are you setting your alarm?
So I'm an early bird,
Okay.
and I have crazy hours. And I'll tell you why I have crazy hours. Because my phone is always on. As Commonwealth attorney, I'm getting dinged throughout the night if there is a crime, because I get text messages. And so I can get dinged 2 o'clock in the morning, 3 o'clock in the morning. I could get a phone call. I have gone to a crime scene at 3 o'clock in the morning and literally just, brush your teeth, go out there, and you are there to advise, or you're there to make sure that whatever the officers are doing is in accordance to what you need to make sure that that evidence is going to be preserved in a way that you can introduce it when court is about to take place.
All right. So really around the clock, on call, weekends?
Yeah.
All right.
Weekends, holidays. I have literally taken calls on Christmas Day. And, there have unfortunately has been a murder on Christmas Day. And I have literally vetted murder charges on Christmas Day. So on holidays, I prefer to be the one to take those calls, because I do want to help my attorneys who also can take a call in reference to vetting a case, be able to enjoy their family time, be able to separate the two. So I don't mind Thanksgiving, Christmas, 4th of July, whatever, taking that phone call or even going to that crime scene and addressing whatever that issue is, because I'm the elected at the end of the day, and I want to make sure they know I have their best interest in heart as well.
Well, I think it's important for leadership to also get their hands dirty sometimes.
Oh, yeah.
Because it's always like, well, they're telling me to do this, but they don't even do that,
Well, no one can say that in my office, because I started out in the Commonwealth attorney as an entry-level attorney. And so I was a 1, a 2, a senior. I was cross-designated as a special assistant U.S. attorney for the Eastern District of Virginia. And then I was a deputy, which is a manager. And then I did not have the official position of chief deputy, but I operated in that role while while I was running for a Commonwealth attorney position. And then, of course, I'm Commonwealth attorney now.
And how many years you been in that role now?
I have been in the Commonwealth attorney's role for 13 years, since 2012.
And you go to the Capitol because you have some other.
Yes. So, okay. I believe that when you are a visionary, you should not just limit the vision. You should always be mindful that if it's working for you, it can work for others. And so I am a part of the Virginia Association of Commonwealth Attorneys, and we lobby in Richmond at the General Assembly every year concerning public safety bills. So we want to make sure that the bills that our legislature is passing is going to enhance public safety and not hurt public safety. So we work hand in hand many times with our legislators, talking to them. If they want to introduce a bill, we will, if we see something that we think could have some unintended consequences, we'll talk to them about it. And many of them are very, very open to just some slight changes and amendments to getting it to where we believe that all of our community is going to be enhanced as far as their public safety. So I do that. And so I am the immediate past president of that association, which is about close to 1,100 members.
Wow.
Yeah. So last year I was the president of that association. Yeah.
You do everything. So, you grew up in Norfolk. You even said you didn't have every opportunity handed to you. Certainly not. When did you decide I want to be an attorney? I want to go into law?
That's interesting. So I am the product of a single mother. And my mom, when I was a kid, I'm talking about generational welfare, generational poverty. My mom said to me and my brother, she gave us a book and she said, you can be whatever you want to be in life. And I took her at her word. And so I went to Norfolk State on a full ride. I went to North Carolina Central on a full ride my last 2 years. And I graduated with honors from both of those schools. And it was in high school in the 11th grade. I was just in a career room and I was just reading about law. And it said you have to be good in history, you like English, like to write, some things like that. And I'm like, I could do that. And then they said how much they made. And I said, I can do that. I said, I can do that.
But not at the beginning, right?
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah,
You
yeah.
kind of work your way up.
You have to work your way up, but just even entry level. Because here's tell you one thing about people that people don't talk about. People assume all attorneys are really smart. And that's not true. Some of them are dumb as rocks. And so
Ooh, on that note, we got a little break.
I'm gonna go right there. Yes.
All right, we'll be right back. All right, so we are now back from the first break. We had to recoup, reevaluate, but the point we were at was really just talking about how not all attorneys are good attorneys.
No.
What do you think makes the difference?
I think a good attorney is someone who is, first of all, prepared. Preparation is about 75 to 80% of the workload. Secondly, I think you have to have good judgment. You have to have great character. Everything is not a fight. Everything is not adversarial. So you have to know what to be able to negotiate, what to be able to come to some type of agreement, some type of compromise. And then you have to also know when it's time to fight, you fight. And you fight zealously. You fight with the right attitude, the right heart, and have the right motives. There are so many people out there who do things for the wrong reason.
Yes.
Or they do it with a motivation that is so selfish. And so as a prosecutor, you don't have the luxury of being selfish. You don't have the luxury of trying to do things so it better positions you or better positions your agenda. You're doing it because you represent the people. You are the people's attorney. That's what the prosecutor is. You're the people's attorney. And you need to always keep that in the back of your head. I am the people's attorney. I represent their values. I represent their concerns. And I absolutely represent their interests.
For you, did you ever have a moment where you were like, man, I don't want to do this no more?
Oh, please.
I know I've had those moments in journalism, so.
Look, anything that you do wholeheartedly, you're going to have burnout issues. You're going to have some situations where you're going to be like, is this worth this?
Right.
And so absolutely, you're going to have those days and those moments where you're like, this is too much, or this has, taken a great weight on me. And that's when you have to really go back to your why. What is your why? Why do you do what you do? Are you doing it for the right reason, or are you doing it for a reason that really, when you add it all up, it's not worth it? And if your why is good, you'll be all right.
So what for you, when you think about your career, which spans how many years?
Ooh, I graduated in 95.
Born in 93. So let me
Okay,
do that.
Asia, see, okay, this is my little sister, and she just put me on blast.
I'm just trying to do the quick math.
95. I graduated in 95 from North Carolina Central, and I passed the bar in 96 in Virginia. And so, yeah, I've been
nearly
doing,
30 years.
Yeah, 30 years.
What was the single-handed hardest moment of your career? Do you remember it? Can you pinpoint it?
I can tell you the hardest case I've ever had.
What was that?
It's very graphic, though. But the hardest
But
case.
we are inside the investigation.
Oh, okay. Well, then we'll go there. So I've worked on everything from a capital punishment case to a triple homicide to a nobody homicide, which we know I've done recently. But the hardest case I think I've ever done emotionally is probably a tie between the Nobody Bigsby case and a sexual assault case involving two young teenagers, a preteen, 11-year-old and a 14-year-old teenager. And they were in foster care. Their parents were dealing with some homeless issues and maybe even drug issues. And they left them in the care of someone who they thought was their friend, a couple. And he did everything to those girls. And I'm talking about everything involving solicitation, child porn, rape, sodomy, even bestiality with a dog. And he had photos. The FBI was very instrumental in helping us to recover images that were on his computer. And he even had his sons sleeping with them, or at least the oldest one. And those girls went through what I would consider just hell, just a complete nightmare. That was the hardest case I ever had to do, because you have to look at the images to be able to, first of all, verify that they exist. And back then we didn't have the same technology as we have now, where you wouldn't have to do so as much as we had to do back then. But nonetheless, dealing with the images were extremely hard. Dealing with the emotional impact that those girls were going through, the trauma, because they were enraged. So, there were times where, it could be really, really hard and like a time bomb exploding with the rage. And so having to deal with that, and then just having to try that case, it was hard. That was very, very hard. But he ended up getting 3 life terms, and I think somewhere like hundreds of years. So he's gonna die in prison.
Because you don't play.
No, I do not play. Now,
so let's get into that.
Let's go ahead and go there.
Because we need to go there.
Yeah.
Because
okay.
look, I've been in a lot of courtrooms all across this good 757.
Yes, ma'am.
And you're the toughest. I know when you are trying a case, they got to come with it because you're prepared. The way that you present, because like a lot of people don't know, when you go into a courtroom and then there's a trial, you have opening statements. I get chills during your opening statements because they are so powerful, because even I know the story, right? I've been covering it since the gunshots went off, but the way that you piece it together and reach to people's hearts and their minds, it's amazing. So how did you learn those skills?
So I'll tell you this, a little funny thing. My initial choice for a career was I wanted to be a comedic actor. I am real
That
life
tracks, though, 'cause you're funny.
reality TV. I am reality TV all day long. I want to be like a Martin or Cosby Show or a different world, you know, because that's what was going on when I was growing up as a teenager.
A blackmail Judge Judy.
Yeah, I was reality TV, and so I always had a heart for theatrics. And what I recognize is people want to feel like they are there when you're telling this story or this version of events. They want to sense everything. They want to feel it. They want to be able to see it, imagine it in their mind. And so I'm very graphic when I share my version of events when we're presenting the evidence, and particularly when I'm doing opening and closing arguments. I've had people cry literally during opening
I'm
statement.
not surprised.
Just cry.
Yeah.
Because they can see it. They can feel it. And so you want to put that person in the best position to be able to experience what exactly took place at the time of that crime. So I'm a great storyteller. I think that has helped me extremely well. I'm a great storyteller. I love telling a story. I love making you come into my world to see a glimpse of what that individual as a victim experienced as a result of the hands of that individual that's on trial.
All right. So we're going to take another natural break real quick, and then we're going to get into more stuff. But thank you so much.
All right.
All right, welcome back to part 3 of Inside the Investigation, where we're talking about your style in the courtroom right now. And so, you know, now I'm going to start getting into the Bigsby stuff because I think it's a natural flow as far as that case was crucial.
It was.
That case, everyone was watching. You had national networks watching, everyone in the community. I mean, this was years of buildup to this point. And there were so many twists and turns going into it as well. So I have a kind of a tracking because there were so many points to this. So February 2022, the little boy goes missing. 4-year-old little Codi goes missing.
Or at least we thought he did.
Thought he went missing.
Correct.
Dad, you know, calls. Things aren't adding up. We're out there on the scene, like trying to talk to family's being real funny. You know, and then the turning point of that was Mark Talbot coming out, and he says, you know, the dad, Codi Bigsby, his story's not adding up. What he's telling us isn't making sense. He's a person of interest in the case. At what point did you get involved in the Bigsby case? Do you remember that initial call? Like, hey, something's not right?
I got involved probably the first day when word was out that this young boy was missing, and we believe that the father's story wasn't added up. What people have to understand is there were a lot of things that were going on immediately when that case first broke. So we get a phone call, 911, and the father saying his son is missing. He's 4 years old, and he's saying that somehow
he went through the glass door.
He went through the glass door, the back door, and but he has no clue where he could possibly be. Now, he makes it appear as if the young child left in the middle of the night. Well, most people know that's a parent. A 4-year-old is afraid of the dark.
You're right.
They are not going out in the dark and have no idea where they're going. Not happening. So that's first thing. So and whenever there is a matter involving a loved one, law enforcement is going to always look at the people closest to them. You're going to always look at the closest circle first. And the reason you're going to always look at the closest circle because many times when it makes no sense, that is the missing piece. And so we began to do a search, and they had the dogs out there and everything. And none of the things that he was saying was adding up. We got some of his clothing that he said was belonged to Codi. And we did a search, and we could not get a track out in the yard.
Right, because you have the dogs essentially like sniff those clothes, right? And then they're looking for that same smell.
Correct. But I'm going to tell you what else we did. We also had him sniff the pillowcase and the sheets where he was lying, supposedly. That did not add up. So we knew that. Even as he was telling his story, we knew there were certain things that wasn't adding up. And then the thing I think that probably was the nail in the coffin for us, and we said that child is gone, is we had a dog to come out that sniffed for decomposed bodies. It was a cadaver dog.
Right.
And we knew that a dead body had been in that home. And that was the nail in the coffin for us. We knew that that child was most likely gone. So within about 24 hours, we knew that child was most likely gone.
So the thing that's so difficult, I think, at that time, so from the community's perspective, they're frustrated because they're feeling like law enforcement may not be doing enough. Y'all may not be doing enough. But what people don't see is that y'all are 10 steps ahead of what you're presenting to the television, right? What you're telling us, y'all are 10 steps ahead of that.
So if you remember, I would not talk to the media for a very long time.
Yeah.
It wasn't until we did the suppression hearing on his statements that you guys even knew that he had confessed to killing him. And I had that in my possession for well over, I think, was like October, if I'm not mistaken. So I had it in my possession for at least 8 months, I believe. So you guys had no clue.
No.
And so while we had the public opinion going on, like how they're going to be able to prove this, how they know that he's really dead, we knew he was dead.
Yeah. I mean, they got so fed up that they started their own searches, you may remember.
Correct. They did.
And they were like, well, if police are done searching, I don't know why they're stopped searching. We're going to search. So then you had the community possibly even tainting evidence in the case, kind of going out. And while they had good intentions, you know, y'all knew to some degree they were wasting their time.
Well, we knew they were wasting their time.
Yeah.
Well, we absolutely knew they were wasting their time.
Yeah.
Not even to some degree. And here's the thing. There are going to always be things going on behind the scene, as you've already said, that we cannot share.
Right.
We're not going to share it with the public because what we're not going to do is allow for the possibility for someone to taint the case.
Right.
And so if we have to keep it to ourselves, we have to keep closed mouth about it, then that's what we're going to do. Like there was some other evidence that came out that you guys discovered later. And again, it didn't come out until the trial, and that was on purpose. Now, the defense knew about it, but because we have to turn it over for discovery,
right?
But the public didn't know about it. So what was happening is, if you remember, there was a lot of talking going on by defense attorneys, and they did their own press conference and a whole bunch of stuff.
I remember because I was at everything.
Yeah, and I was quiet. I would not respond to it.
Well, why didn't he say something?
I would not respond. And I'm very open with the press. I have a very good relationship with the press, but this was a case that I felt that silence was golden.
All right.
And so I just had to at that
point. Still to come inside the investigation. Did you guys ever, what does your hunch tell you about where the body may be?
I do have a hunch.
What do you think? Do you think it's here? Do you think he went far?